Well, hello everybody. I'm going to do another pinball video. Why? Because this one actually I think is a great idea for a video. It's not a review of a pinball machine, and we're down here in my basement and I've got all my pinball games turned on except for Willy Wonka. That's loading at the moment. These are the pinballs that are in my basement. Let's review. This is a Batman 66. And when I say theme matters, by the way, you can't see it, but this is SLE. Theme matters. That's why you don't see Batman 66 for sale. You just don't see them for sale because theme matters. And in this case, this Pirates of the Caribbean, the reason why this thing is worth so much money, because they didn't make that many. And the game is actually really cool. And mine is seriously modded up. And by the way, I'm willing to sell this game if somebody's interested in buying a Pirates of the Caribbean that literally has every mod you can possibly get. And I'm willing to sell this dialed in, and I'm willing to sell this Willy Wonka collector's edition, which is still loading, by the way. And then here's Big Lebowski. And when we say theme matters, because it does, this company, Dutch Pinball, literally was manufacturing this game forever. And when you question whether or not I like horror, let me explain something to you, okay? Listen to my ringtone on my phone. That should say it all. Now, this game over here, Alien, this is a limited edition Alien. This game is actually designed as if Jersey Jack made a wide body. It's got all of the assets you would want, which is a positive. It has an alien. It's well themed. And this is not going to be on my list today because I am going to talk about a subject that I'm very well versed in, which is horror. Okay? And you could say that Stranger Things is kind of like a horror TV show. It's really horror sci-fi, but yeah, I mean, you could say it's sci-fi horror. Okay? Alien is sci-fi horror. Now, many people would say Alien is the best horror movie of all time. And this game here is based on Alien and Aliens 2. And look at the neat toys. You got the face hugger, you've got the alien. I mean, this game is really cool. If you love aliens, this game is a home run. Okay, now let's talk about today's topic. There we go. See, Willy Wonka's working. And by the way, that's a game I would sell. This is a Willy Wonka collector's edition. Willy Wonka is just one of the best themes you possibly could come up with for pinball. It's really just that cool of a theme. As is Big Lebowski, which I have no idea why Stern hasn't tried to embrace doing things like Vacation, Caddyshack, Animal House, Three Stooges. Okay, the list goes on. I think comedy would sell Big League. Do you know what Batman is over there? Not only is it nostalgic, cult classic, but it's also a comedy. Okay? And it's a huge seller. Willy Wonka is a comedy. It's a different kind of comedy, but it's a family movie that has obviously got a lot of comedy elements to it. Big Lebowski, 100% comedy. I think we would all agree with that. So, with all that being said, let's talk about why Stern, for example, and Jersey Jack, for that matter, why they haven't done horror. I mean, of course, Stern has done horror in the past. They did Walking Dead. I mean, of course, they did a lot of games, like a lot older games. But they haven't really embraced horror recently. And so what I've done is I've come up with a list. And you're talking to somebody who knows horror, okay? So let's keep that straight. And for those who don't know, I own 3 haunted houses. Some people say one of my haunted houses is one of the best in the world. We've built haunted houses and dark rides for people all over the world, and obviously I love horror. So I've come up with a top 25 with a bonus. Now, and I don't know if I added this up right, but I got Stern making 9 of them, Jersey Jack making 4, Barrels of Fun making 1, Spooky Pinball, I think, making 7, and American Pinball making 4. Because, you know, we don't even talk about American Pinball. Like, what's going on with this company? Are they bankrupt? Are they out of business? Are they going to do something? So I've literally put on here a few themes that I think even American Pinball could license. Now, I'm going to tell you, ranking them, and then I'm going to tell you who I think should make it, why, and how many do I think it would sell. Okay? Now, my bonus game. Bonus, this means it's 26. It didn't make my top 25, is Halloween. Now, why do I have Halloween on here? I hate to say this, but that game is so bad. And I'm not ashamed to say that. It's just terrible. The CGI is terrible. The artwork's terrible. The layout's terrible. And I don't know what kind of exclusivity Spooky has on that title and for how long. But I really see Stern remaking that game. I would love to see Stern make that game. With their distribution, I think that's a game that could sell easily 3,000, 3,500 copies. I can tell you it would sell way more than King Kong. It'll sell way more than X-Men. It'll sell way more than Venom. And why? Because horror is huge in the collectible world. You have a lot of older people. They collect anything and everything associated with what they like. And look, Spooky does Evil Dead, so that's not on my list. Evil Dead, I didn't even put Army of Darkness for that matter, although that would have been great if they would have incorporated that. But Evil Dead is a very cultish horror movie. It's not mainstream, okay, horror. And it's sold out. Why? Because, I mean, they obviously incorporated the theme really well. The artwork's really great. But come on, the people who in the horror community, they found out about it. A lot of these people bought this game. They just snapped it up. Okay. Now there's other horror titles that are much, much more popular than Evil Dead. And I'm also going to say this because it's 100% true. Okay. I think Spooky could have sold more Evil Deads because the horror community really is just that big. And I think the more the horror community finds out about Evil Dead, they're going to seek it out, they're going to want it, and it's going to become one of those games where the value is higher than what you paid for it new, which is very rare right now in pinball. But I do think the Halloween theme is that good, and I really do think it should be remade, and it should be remade with more assets. And by the way, I would not make any of these games that I'm going to list unless you can get the full range of assets. And I think that is the key. That's the key to making any of these games a reality. Only if you can get every square inch of the movie or the franchise. Okay, now I would like to see Halloween remade because I think the title is warrant of it. I think it's a great title. It might be one of the best you could get. I just think the game would be better looking more like the movie poster, where it was kind of black and orange and it had Halloween, it had the logo, and then you had more of a better, like a image of the house with Michael Myers and like a collage of the different characters. And I don't think it should be a multi-level game. It would have been better if it was done a little bit more like Elvira was, with the house in the background. Maybe small LCD screens in the house. You see Michael Myers chasing people around. I mean, I would have liked to see something a lot more like that. I would have liked to see like a bash toy, like and even a Michael Myers bash toy where you hit him and then his knife goes forward and backwards. A police car that, you know, you can hit. I mean, it just would have been so much better. And I also want to say this. If Spooky redid that game today based on what they've done with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then the leap they took with Evil Dead, I would have no problem with seeing Spooky redo Halloween. And I guarantee you they would do it much different than they did the original. Number 25, Night of the Living Dead, black and white version. Why? And I put American Pinball in on this because it's public domain. they certainly don't like licensing things. You can use the whole movie, you can use all the clips and everything, and if American Pinball doesn't want to license something, Night of the Living Dead would be a great theme for them. It's the original zombie movie. It's still beloved to this day. It's George Romero. And I can see doing the game kind of in black and white with some green and, you know, some hints and tints of color. Obviously, all the movie clips will be in black and white. But yeah, I think that would be a great game. A zombie bash toy, maybe similar to Walking Dead, the house in the background, a gas station you blow up. You know, a cemetery where they're drop targets. Okay, and by the way, one of the things you're going to realize too as I'm talking to you, I'm going to actually tell you like things that I think I would like to see in the game. This is without even thinking about it for 2 seconds. But a cemetery in Night of the Living Dead, obviously, that are drop targets. I can even see zombies popping up out of the ground, kind of like in The Hobbit over there, but you know, they have monsters and you shoot them or whatever. I think it would be a great theme for American Pinball. Number 24, and this one's gonna be wild, okay? Remake Creature from the Black Lagoon, but a new version with movie clips and the whole shebang. And I would love to see Jersey Jack do that because, you know, when you think about Marilyn Monroe and her famous movie when, you know, she's in the subway and her skirt blows up, what movie theater, she came out of a movie theater, and what movie did she come out of to see? Creature from the Black Lagoon. That was her favorite movie. Creature from the Black Lagoon is heavily licensed. I think anyone in the horror community would embrace it fully. I think people who like nostalgic pinball, the way that they embraced Elvira, they would re-embrace a Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, you know, that's kind of screaming Stern, go get that and do another version like you did with Elvira. But no, I would love to see Jersey Jack do that. I would love to see him do it as a wide body. If any game was demanding a lower playfield, and not a little bitty one, but like where literally 60% of the playfield is, there's a lower playfield under the playfield. That would be fantastic. Creature from the Black Lagoon. And by the way, how many games do I think Night of the Living Dead would sell for American Pinball? I mean, I think if they said, hey, we're gonna build 750 of these, it would be more than their last 3 or 4 titles combined in sales. And they would sell out all 750 in short order. I think that if Stern did Halloween, I think it's the 3,000, 3,500 units would be sold. I think if Jersey Jack did Creature from Black Lagoon, I think Creature from Black Lagoon would sell probably 2,500 copies, 3,000 copies. I can tell you this, it would be more than Elton John, Avatar, Godfather combined. And I'm absolutely certain that this is how many games would be sold because the collector community, especially in horror, is so big. Not to mention the fact the nostalgia of Creature from the Black Lagoon in the pinball community and how valuable that game is to people, I think it would be huge. Coming in at 23, Freddy vs. Jason. Gets spooky to do that. Now, later on the list, I'm going to have Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, obviously. But what if you just did the best of both worlds and you based Freddy vs. Jason? It's a perfect game when you think about it because you can play as Michael Myers, or no, you can play as Freddy Krueger, you can play as Jason, you can do battles. The code can be all about, you know, the monsters fighting each other. It would be absolutely fantastic. It's a fantastic theme. That movie made close to $100 million when it came out. In today's money, it would be double that, probably almost. So yeah, I do think that would be a great theme because it's kind of like the best of both worlds. That's a game I would love to see Spooky do. Number 22, I have Tremors. And why would I want to see Tremors? First off, they made a lot of Tremors movies, but it's a cult classic. And why wouldn't you want to see barrels of fun do it? Because they just did Dune and they showed you they have worms coming up out of the ground and everything. But you know why people like Tremors? It's a comedy. Okay, it's a horror comedy. It would be huge. Number 21. Another title for American Pinball, only because I don't see anybody else doing it. Poltergeist. There's not anybody my age that didn't see Poltergeist as a kid. I mean, 2 of the characters one was murdered, and the other one was, you know, like died making Poltergeist 3, I think it was. and Poltergeist is a movie that'll be remade again, and it's a classic. It was done by Tobe Hooper, who also did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was produced by Steven Spielberg. Some say he directed it. Nobody knows for sure, but it's got all the elements. It's got all the call-outs there. Here, you know, it has pretty much everything you could want. It would be a great title for American Pinball. I could see them going out and getting that game and literally saying, hey, there's only going to be 750 of these or 800 of these, and I think they would all sell out. So I'm, you know, giving the titles that I think would be more boutique numbers just to companies that aren't Stern. Okay, number 20, American Werewolf in London. It's literally one of the craziest movies ever made. It's got spooky all over it. It's something that's still licensed. It's a huge cult classic to this day. It won an Academy Award for makeup for Rick Baker. It's literally considered the greatest makeup movie ever because of the transformation scene. And it's just wild. It's got Nazis. It's got everything. It's just a crazy movie. Number 19, another game for spooky pinball, Child's Play. I think that's another game where Spooky comes out and says, we're going to make 1,000 Child's Plays. They're all sold out the same day, essentially. I think it would sell faster than Evil Dead, for sure, because it's more popular. It's a bigger license, and, you know, just imagine that topper. If you had, you know, and Junkie was up there, and he had a knife in his hand, and he's stabbing down on you from the top of the pinball machine. But either way, I think it's a perfect game for spooky pinball. Number 18, Fright Night. I love the movie Fright Night. It is a huge cult classic. It has Rodney McDowall, is, if you know, he's from the Planet of the Apes franchise. It's just like one of the best movies. And they tried to remake it, and it just like flopped. But the original is a masterpiece. And I think any horror movie that mixes comedy and horror together is a winner. Okay, and that is exactly what Fright Night is. It's a comedy mixed with horror. And it's a huge cult classic. I can definitely see American Pinball doing that. I mean, you could see pretty much Spooky doing that. Barrels of Fun doing that. It's just a great movie, and it's very well loved and beloved by the horror community. So I have that at number 18. Number 17 is Trick or Treat. And again, I put American Pinball here because I just think it'd be an easy license to get, and that's why I put it in here. I don't think you would have a whole lot of problems licensing it. But why do I like Trick or Treat? Number one, it mixes almost every genre together in one movie. It has become one of the biggest cult classics of all time. It was a bomb at the box office, became a huge hit on video and everywhere else. You go into any Halloween store and you see Trick or Treat licensed all over the place. Now they do plan on doing another one. The movie was great. It was fantastic. And just think about it's almost like a Halloween Trick or Treat, you know, traditional theme. And I think it would just go over humongous, and it would be a huge seller. And I think you easily could say, we're going to sell 1,000 of these, and you would get rid of all of them just from the horror community alone. I do think from a licensing standpoint, it's bigger than Evil Dead. When you go into a Spirit or something like that, they're going to have way more Trick or Treat licensing than they do Evil Dead. Number 16, Hellraiser. And I would only do it off Hellraiser 1 and 2. Okay, I would love to see Spooky do that. Based on what they did with Evil Dead, I think they would nail it. Hellraiser is super popular, and I don't see Stern or getting into something this gory, you know, because Pinhead, you know, Hellraiser's a lot more gory than some of these other ones. There's really no comedy involved. It's a straight horror movie. And I think that would go over really well. I think it would be a game, you know, you probably would sell the numbers you sold to Evil Dead, maybe 800. Number 15, Psycho. I think this is a perfect game for Jersey Jack. Can you imagine the topper has the house, okay, and little CGIs in the windows, you know, of Norman looking out the window and things of this nature. Or having the house in the back, like kind of like Elvira. Either way, Psycho's a classic. It's film noir. There's a lot of people that would be into it, especially a lot of Alfred Hitchcock fans. Of any movie that Alfred Hitchcock ever did, this would be the one to do. I think that Psycho probably would sell over 2,000 units. It would definitely sell more than their last 3 titles combined. Number 14 is Phantasm. Only, I mean, you could do them all the movies, but this is a license that American Pinball could get even, because the guy who owns like pretty much all of it is the director, and you could literally get his phone number, call him, and he would set the whole thing up in 5 seconds. So really, and when you think about it, it's a theme that American Pinball could do. But Phantasm is very similar to Evil Dead. Okay, the fans, they love it about the same level as Evil Dead. They're both cult classics. Phantasm 1, Phantasm 2. You have a lot of cool things going on with the movie too, because you have the Barracuda, okay? You got the silver ball, and when you think about a pinball, they call it silver ball. But in Phantasm, you have the silver ball with the knives essentially poking out, and it just makes too much sense for a company like Spooky Pinball to do Phantasm. I think it would be in the same vein as Evil Dead, and if your goal is to sell 800, 900 copies, I think that's exactly what Phantasm would do. Number 13, so we're going to get into the top 13, is It. Somebody's coming downstairs. Anyway, It would be number 13. You got Pennywise. You've got huge license there. You have the success of the movies. They have a TV show coming out here shortly. And I think they're going to do more movies. So, I mean, I have down here that Stern would do this. I think it's a little bit bigger of a license. I think it would cost a little bit more. How many units do I think Pennywise would sell? It would sell more than X-Men. It would sell more than King Kong, because the horror community is that big. The collector side of the horror community. Number 12, I'm going to go with another Stern here and do the Conjuring series. I think it's big enough. The movies make tons of money. It's the perfect license for Stern. I can tell you that The Conjuring is way more popular than Walking Dead. Before I would ever release a new Walking Dead, I would do The Conjuring. Perfect movie for Stern. It's scary. I don't know if they would be into something quite that scary. But do I think it would sell 2,000, 3,000 units? Yes, I do. The horror community would love that. I think you only license it if you can get the whole series of movies. So you can have Annabelle, The Nun, the whole shebang. I think it would be a fantastic license for Stern. Coming in at number 11 is another one that I have done for Stern. That would be Zombieland. Why would I do Zombieland? Well, it's zombies, but it's a comedy. It's a comedy. And it has so many call-outs and so many quotes that it's just screaming to be a pinball machine. And it's something that's been licensed quite a bit, in fact. And they also did make a sequel because the demand from the community is so high. I can tell you that Zombieland would definitely sell more copies than King Kong and X-Men combined. It would be a great theme, and it probably wouldn't cost an arm and a leg. Now, number 10. Now we're into the top 10. And I could literally make this number 1. And I literally have told this to Jersey Jack in the past. And I still think it's a theme that Jersey Jack should license because it's so classic. Universal Studios horror movie monsters. So that means you would have Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Mummy. I mean, you could even do Phantom of the Opera. You could do The Invisible Man. And you could also do Creature in Black Lagoon. When you think about Universal's new theme park called Epic, they built a whole section dedicated to them. You know why? Because this is like probably their biggest license that they license. People making pretty much anything and everything retail you can think of Frankenstein, Dracula. But to actually have the game be in black and white with like the Universal logo maybe being in red or a foil of silver, okay, hints of green, that would be huge. That would be huge. Frankenstein's castle, maybe as the topper, or in the back, and you got Frankenstein. All the monsters are fighting for supremacy. That would be huge. I can tell you, in terms of sales, it's a theme that potentially could sell 4,000 to 5,000 units. And I only say that because you have to understand, if you go to any horror show, or almost any show at all, when you go to a collectible show, the Universal Studio horror monsters are prevalent. They're out front and they're huge. The collector side of Universal Studio monsters is massive. It's just massive. Number 9, I have another one for Stern, would be The Shining. The Shining is considered by some to be the greatest horror movie of all time. And again, this is only if you can get the assets, okay? And The Shining is something, I've been to the licensing show. You could easily license. It's there. There's a company that's just licensing just The Shining. So it absolutely can be had, okay? It's just a matter of, making the game The Shining. The Shining is considered one of the greatest movies ever made. Not even horror. I mean, it's just considered one of the greatest movies ever made of all time. Plus, you factor in the Stephen King elements, and I can't think off the top of my head if any Stephen King movie has ever been made into a pinball machine. I really don't know. But you have the Stephen King factor going on here as well. That's why I think it would be so huge. Number 8 is Nightmare on Elm Street. Look, I know this was a pinball in the past. I would love to see Stern do it. I think it would be bigger than Walking Dead. There's a humongous fan base for Freddy. They're going to relaunch it, but you can go to any place that's selling Halloween stuff, and it's just Freddy's everywhere. He's everywhere. He's in Walmart. He's in Target. He's everywhere. The movies are out there. The masks are out there. The claws are out there. But I do think if Stern made that, I think, and Spooky could make it as well. But the only reason I say Stern is because they have the ability to manufacture more versions. And so that plays into a factor on who I'm saying should make it, because I just think that Nightmare on Elm Street's demand would be in the 2,500 range. And I don't know if Spooky can make 2,500 pinball games in a year. That's why I think it would be better off with Stern. At number 7, I have The Exorcist, only because it's literally the greatest horror movie of all time. I don't know if it would translate to a pinball, but I put down Spooky because I think it's a pinball game that, you sell 750 to 1,000 copies of. I mean, think about when you think about Godzilla and the bridge shaking, you got the bed shaking, you got her raising off, her head spinning around. There's so many things in The Exorcist, but without the movie clips, no way. Number 6, and I have 2 companies down for this. Either one's fine by me. At number 6, I have The Thing. I would love to see Spooky do that. I don't see it as a title the Stern would do. I don't think it's a title either that would sell as many copies as Nightmare on Elm Street, just because Nightmare on Elm Street's so much bigger in terms of a license. But The Thing is by many considered the greatest horror movie of all time. That is a John Carpenter movie. Most people will tell you The Thing is much better than Halloween. It's literally an Academy Award level movie for special effects, and it's super scary. And The Thing would be fantastic as a pinball machine, but you gotta be willing to go all in with that pinball machine if you're going to make it. But yeah, I think The Thing would be a game maybe even the Pinball Brothers could make, because of this game that they made right here, Alien. And they did such a good job with this, possibly they could make The Thing. The Thing is just, in the horror community, many people will tell you it's the best horror movie of all time. Number 5, and you're going to think I'm going to say Spooky on this, but I think that the license would be big enough that this is a game that would probably sell 2,500 copies. Again, more than King Kong, more than X-Men, more than Venom. I think it would sell more than all those people, and that's Friday the 13th. I really do think that theme is so universal at this point. It's so mainstream that if you made it, I think it would be bigger than Walking Dead for sure. And there's just so many things that could be done with that. You got the cabin. Think about Evil Dead for a second. You got the cabin. You got a Bash Toy with with his machete. It's a no-brainer game. It's a no-brainer. And you've got so many movies, and he's always wearing a mask. You don't have a lot of licensing issues there. Number 3 would be Saw. This is a game, I think, if Spooky got it, this is a game where they could not say, we're going to make 1,000 copies. Because I think Saw would be a game that would probably push the 2,000 range, because Saw is so popular with the people who love Saw. I hate Saw. I don't like him, but it's so popular. And what they did with Evil Dead, I'd like to see them do the same with Saw. But they would have to have a higher capacity, because Saw is probably 3 or 4 times bigger license than Evil Dead. Number 2, and I have Stern down for this, and Stern should license this tomorrow. The Lost Boys. Why is The Lost Boys so great? Number 1, it's vampires. Number 2, it's a comedy. It's funny. And number 3, it's scary. But it's The Lost Boys. And you know what number 5 is? It has a great soundtrack. And that's something we haven't talked about with any of these titles. Okay, a lot of these titles have great, sound in the background, like the composition. But let's go through this. Night of the Living Dead, Creature in the Black Lagoon, Tremors, Poltergeist, American Werewolf. Like, you can just go through the list here, okay? They don't have the amazing soundtrack. And I might be wrong about Zombieland. I'd have to go back and watch it. But think about The Lost Boys. You're talking about a platinum soundtrack. So you've got music, you've got comedy, you've got 80s horror comedy, you have vampires. What's not to like about The Lost Boys? And I think this is a game that would easily sell 3,000 plus copies. It would sell more than King Kong. It would sell more than Venom and X-Men combined, or about combined. That's what I think it would do. And number one, and it's a movie that I hate. I can't stand it. And hopefully this goes to prove that I'm not biased, is Scream. And Stern should make this game. When you think about Walking Dead, I mean, come on. Walking Dead was popular. It had its heyday, and it was probably a big, good selling game for Stern. And if they remake it, who cares? But whatever. But at the end of the day, Walking Dead is washed up. You know what's not washed up? Scream. People love that. There's a company, they don't sell anything but Scream. And if you go to their booth at the Halloween show, they've got 5 million versions of the same thing. Scream. Scream masks, Scream costumes, Scream toys, Scream everything. It's probably the biggest horror license out there, is Scream. And it's so popular. And why is it popular? Do I have to be a broken record? It's a horror movie, it's a slasher movie, but it's also a comedy. Because there's a lot of funny things that happen. And a lot of quotes and call-outs and so on and so forth. But can you imagine the voice doing the call-outs, where he's talking on the microphone, on the phone? I mean, it's just like, it just makes perfect sense to do Scream. I think Scream is so popular. I mean, I do think it would sell over 3,000 copies. Again, more than King Kong, more than X-Men, more than Venom. How many times is Stern going to do superhero titles that nobody cares about, that are cartoon? Now, I will say, with any of these titles that I'm talking about, could you have Zombie Yeti do the artwork? I want to make something clear. I like Zombie Yeti. He's a good artist, but only if he's doing a comic book game, okay? If he's doing something that needs photorealism the way that Franchi does it, don't have him anywhere close to the game. You can't do cartoon, for Scream or Saw. You might be able to do it for Beetlejuice. You can't do it for Friday the 13th. You can't do it for The Thing. You can't do it for Exorcist or Nightmare on Elm Street, The Shining, Universal Studios Horror Monsters. The list goes on. Pennywise. You got to have photorealism artwork. And I think that's the key. That's the key when it comes to horror. Now, I think you could do Chucky as a cartoonish artwork, comic type of art. Yeah, I think you could probably do Chucky. because he's a doll. So he would make a lot of sense in that way, but Poltergeist wouldn't. Tremors might. Creature from Black Lagoon maybe, because the original's kind of done a little bit that way, but not Halloween, not Night of the Living Dead. Definitely not Pennywise, not Phantasm for sure. Anyway, that's my list of 25 plus the bonus of redoing Halloween because that license is so huge. Horror movies. Now, there's a rumor floating around out there that Spooky licensed Howling, and I can tell you why that might be true. Because the same people who have the license to Evil Dead and Halloween also have Howling. So, they could have gotten it for almost nothing. Don't do Howling. No one cares about Howling. No one cares at all. It's so low on the totem pole, it's not worth the effort. If I was going to do a werewolf, I would do American Werewolf in London before I would even touch that. Okay? Don't do the Howling, if it's true. If it's true. I don't know if it's true. But the rumor is that Spooky has Beetlejuice. I would have loved to see Jersey Jack do Beetlejuice, and I don't think I mentioned that. But yeah, Beetlejuice, I would love to see Jersey Jack do it. But, based on the way that Spooky did Evil Dead, yeah, I could buy that. Now, I just want to say, because somebody might say, oh, you're being a little negative towards Spooky. Look, Spooky doesn't have the ability to do the CGI in the same way that Jersey Jack does. We all admit they're number one. And number two is probably Stern. And then there's everybody else. But Spooky's been licensing things lately where they get the assets. And you can see in the Halloween movie where they didn't get much assets and they had to create their own, it doesn't look as good. Okay? That's why I say, especially if you're American Pinball or Spooky, you have to get the assets. It's imperative. Because then you don't have to rely as much on CGI. I would even say the same thing to Stern, because your CGI really isn't that great either compared to Jersey Jack. And you see that all the games of Jersey Jack has assets. It makes the eye candy so much better, and the game sell so much better. So there's my list. I would love to hear what you think would be your top 5, 10. Tell me what you think. And who do you think should make them? And how successful do you think the game would be? So there's my top 25 plus 1. And by the way, I don't mean it to be negative towards Spooky, but I think Spooky even knows that the game was a learning experience. Let's put it that way. What matters is, you have to remember something. This is a what have you done for me lately business, just like almost anything else. It doesn't matter if you like America's Most Haunted, which I do not. It does not matter if you didn't like Halloween. It does not matter if you liked or disliked a game that was made 5 or 10 years ago. What matters is what they're doing now. And what Spooky's doing now, especially with Christopher Franchi on board, it's pretty amazing. So I think Spooky should just keep doing horror. Why not? It's working. And one of the things I want to say to people is Spooky is not in the pinball business. Stern is not in the pinball business. They're in the manufacturing business. So, and you can only manufacture if you sell a product. And if horror is working for Spooky, and you've got a lot of horror people that keep coming to your website to see what you're doing next, and they're going to probably buy it, stay with it. You found a niche. It's working. Does that mean you can't go out and do The Goonies or Back to the Future, which we hear other people have a license already? No, it doesn't mean that at all. But if horror is working for you and you're getting better at it, keep doing it. And by the way, does this mean Spooky can't do Scream? No. But unless their manufacturing gets a little quicker, they would be stuck on Scream, because I believe it would sell a lot of copies. I think Lost Boys would sell a lot of copies. Saw would sell a lot of copies. Beetlejuice is going to sell a lot of copies. Do you want to tie up your whole company on one theme for a year and a half, 18 months? I know that Spooky is growing and they're building more manufacturing ability, so good for them. But yeah, I mean, when you get into these bigger licenses, there's going to be bigger demand. And if there's bigger demand, then you're going to have more people who are upset because they can't get it right away. And that's something I think Spooky's really good at, is they're making games, they're capping them. And I don't think they should always cap them, but they're capping them right now. And they're capping them in a realistic time frame that they can get their customers the games without making them wait so long they don't want the game anymore. And that's kind of important when they're picking themes, I think. So anyway, let me know what you think. And until then, remember, Phantasm is a silver ball, just like a pinball machine. I would love to see a Phantasm pinball. Till then.